Hey everyone, Paul ASM. Welcome to part one of our Nunu 124th Audi Quattro Sport video build. So if you know me, you know this is my favourite, one of my favourite cars all time and favourite Group B rally car. So very excited to get in with this one. We've got the Nunu kit itself, which we reviewed a while back with the detailed upset from Nunu as well. And we've also added the Regi model HB decals as well to make the version that I truly love. So yes, we've got a lot to get through today. This is the third time I've recorded this because I keep getting disturbed by people walking past or forgetting to hit record on the audio, so you get the really buzzy audio on this. So third time's a charm. Here we go. We've got a lot to get through today. It's about 9.5 hours of footage to get down to a 38-minute video plus this as well. So bear with me if I speed through a lot, but yeah, let's jump straight in and let's get cracking with the build. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. You now have the chance to support the video content creation by using Patreon or the PayPal me link in the description down below. All the videos always remain free to watch. This is just your chance to help support the videos. Right then, so straight in with a new build. It's a very warm day here today. I've got my fan on, hopefully you can't hear it. So, Audi Quattro, we've got several body components to glue in place, so I'm going to highlight them all with my fancy highlighter I found in a drawer the other day. Easiest way to do it, just go through, look what needs spraying in the body colour, what needs attaching, what doesn't, mark them up. While we're there, have a look at the aftermarket instructions as well to see what needs removing. As you can see, I've marked up where the bonnet pins go. And we've also got our aftermarket decals from Regi now as well for the HB 85 Monte Carlo car. So this is a scheme I love, and the decals look really good. I've used Regi on several occasions. Never really had an issue, so I don't think we will this time. Got some tricky bits to mask up and some tricky bits to decal, but all in all, I think we'll be fine. So as per the detail upset, we need to remove the plastic moulded on bonnet pins. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either pop them off with a sander, like so. Or you can use a chisel, like I have here, one of the Master Tools chisels, and just carefully and gently, piece by piece, take it off. Obviously keep the chisel flat to the surface because you do not want to remove gouges out the plastic, and also watch your fingers as well. Or you can go back to the really old school way and use your knife and just gently ease away at the plastic. Whatever way you're most comfortable doing is the best way to go. Once you've removed the majority of the plastic, we can hit it then with one of our UMP 400 thinny sticks, and then hit it with our buffer as well, and polish it up. It's a nice high shine plastic. Looking at the panel lines, they look pretty good, but I think we're going to widen them, or deepen them rather. Don't do this very often on the kits, but thought why not on this one? We might as well. I'm not going to go too mad. I see a few YouTubers going that deep, look, they're going to cut through the plastic. I'm literally going to just rescribe it just a little bit deeper. You need to be very careful. This tool can be quite vicious if you're not used to using it, and it can cause more damage than good. So just really take your time using it. So you don't need to apply a huge amount of pressure, and I often find it helpful to go forwards before coming back to rescribe to make sure you've got a nice clean line to rescribe. Not one of my favourite jobs doing this, and it can cause major issues and a lot of damage if you're not careful. So just really take your time. It's a nice sharp tool, and we're just going to deepen them just a little bit, not a huge amount, just to give them a little bit more depth for our wash in a little bit. So not too bad of a body to clean up this one. We've got a major couple of seam lines on the roof. We've got a front bumper to glue in place. The boot spoiler will be kept separate. But overall, there's no real seam lines to deal with. It's quite a nice clean body to deal with. So like I say, we'll give it a bit of rescribe and add a bit of depth. And then we can get ourselves all prepped and ready for primer and paint. So on this, we've got to cut this front lip off. Now, the rumours go around is that they've done this to make the road-going car. No idea, but you can see there the parts we need to remove. It is defined on the side of the bumper. So I've got my JLC razor saw. I'm just going to use the edge of the mark. It's a recessed kind of mark, so you can put the razor saw right up against it. And gently saw away. Let the saw do the work. You don't need a massive amount of pressure. It's quite awkward to do on camera because I can't do it the way I want to with you seeing. So it looks quite cumbersome doing this. I'm using an old UMP buffer as kind of a stand/base. And once we cut through it, like so, we then get our customizable sander and sand it flat. Now we've got a couple of holes to drill in the back, like so. 1mm holes using our Tamiya pin vise and drill bits. So pop that in place. And then we've got our front bumper to take off. And clean up. And then this needs gluing in place. So a couple of locating points on the front. Clean up with our 400 UMP thinning stick. Again, no real major work. Nicely moulded. Really nice and crisp body shell. Like I say, the two major problems are the seam lines on the roof, but they're pretty easily dealt with. We've got the Tamiya white glue. Just a little bit of a thicker glue to get some purchase on that front bumper. I'm just going to put over the two locating points, like so. Make sure we've got plenty on there to get some purchase on the bumper. Line it up, get it in place. And then we can use our Tamiya extra thin to come in and glue the rest in position too. So I've got a habit of putting my lids back on my glues just to make sure we don't get any spillages, because we've all done it. We've all knocked our glues over and it's a real pain and absolutely ruins your cut mat. Our ultimate standard holders, as shown here, prove invaluable for this. They really do cut down on the spillages. Like I say, we've got some of my Tamiya extra thin plastic weld mix in here. And we can push the edges together like so and just give it a quick run round of Tamiya extra thin all around to make sure it's all glued on. Quite simple, quite straightforward. Just don't press too hard pushing the parts together. You don't want to ruin the panel line by getting a big huge splooge of molten plastic coming through. So just push it together, leave it alone, and let the glue do the work. Let it dry. And that's it. Just hold it for a few seconds. Apply a bit more if you think you need it. And I had to leave it for a good few hours before any painting goes ahead at all. So the spoiler, cut it off the sprue, clean it up. As you can tell, the 400 thinning sticks are one of my favourite sanders. Absolutely perfect for doing jobs like this. It's abrasive enough to remove the plastic required, yet it doesn't mar the surface as much as any more lower grade sanders. So perfect job for me. Couple that with the buffer and you've got a good team there for general cleanup. So like I say, two seams on the roof. They are quite big, so they are going to take a bit of work, but we just got our 240 large sponge sander from Ultimate and just slowly work at it. No real pressure on the body. We're taking care of that raised roof section at the back and just gently going all over, working back and forth until it's totally gone. It takes a bit of time and a bit of care and effort, so once you've done that bit, you can move on to the back and you'll know once the seam line is gone because you won't be able to feel it and it should be less visible to the eye as well. You can then hit it with the buffer to get it polished up and jobs are good. And so one either side, quite tricky to deal with, probably the hardest part of doing this body, but pretty simple really. And then I like to go around all the base, the wheel arches, make sure we've got no stray bits of plastic. Anything that just needs a quick run over with the sander can have it. Make sure everything is ready. And yeah, we're all prepped then to start getting prepped for primer. So we're going to key up the surface, like so. Using our sponge sander. I'm hoping we still release these at some point, although it's not looking great. But there are alternatives out there, which I will have to source eventually. Tamiya do some nice ones. We're just scuffing it all up. It's basically a key for the primer. So we're going around losing all the shine of the plastic. It's not really an abrasive sanding. It's been used many times, so it's not overly harsh. And once you're happy with that, get an old toothbrush, get in there, and get any old dust out of there in all those seam lines and panel lines as well. Mounting it to our paint stands, as usual, I tape them on. Single piece of the 18mm tape in the middll and 2 pieces of the 10mm top and bottom to secure it securely in place. So this is done for each stage. We prime it, then paint it. It's then taken off while we decal and then put back on for clear coat. So you're going to have to do this a few times. But it's a good step to do. You know the body's on, you know it's secured well. It's not going to fall off as you're moving it round. It's not going to fall off mid-paint, which is the most important thing for me. Because nothing can make a mess of your paint than dropping freshly painted surface into a big load of dog hair or fluff or plastic shavings, because we've all been there and we've all done it. Tamiya white primer, decanted out the can, thinned about 20% with Tamiya lacquer thinner retarder. We're going through the 0.35mm Ultimate Apex airbrush at about 18 psi. And I'm just looking how to mount the spoiler. And I was going to mount it on the crocodile clip, but it wasn't strong enough, so I thought a couple of bulldog clips side by side should do the job nicely. And there we go, nice and secure mount and something easy to hold. So we're prepped for primer. We've given the body a blow over the airbrush. We've given it a go over the anti-static Tamiya brush as well. We're going to put down several light coats of the Tamiya primer, ending in a nice wettish coat to give us some nice self-leveling properties to the primer at the end. So just going around, not hosing it on, especially on the first coat, getting all the wheel arches, getting everywhere we need to be done, and just get all underneath, all the sills, everywhere. And then we put it to one side for 10-15 minutes. And the kind of heat we've had lately, it's 30 degrees here today, outside. It dries really quick as well. Same with the spoiler, we do that as well, and then come back in later on for a second coat. This time we're going to go up and down. Went to side on the first one. We're going to go up and down on the second, and this will ensure we get all those angles, all the panel lines, all equally done. And it's just going around systematically, making sure you got a nice even coat of primer. Like I say, lacquer primers definitely becoming more and more of my thing, just for the sheer ease of use. The Ultimate Apex, perfect for this job. General all-round airbrush, absolutely perfect. I couldn't think of a better airbrush to use on my car models, and it's easy for me to say as it's my airbrush, but it does work really, really well. So, like I say, TS26 has been decanted, left to off gas. We've thinned about 20% with Tamiya lacquer thinner retarder. It's been sat in the bottle for quite a while, so we will leave it. If you leave it, it will settle. So we'll give it a good mix up with the Badger paint mixer. And then, of course, we've got our Tamiya anti-static brush as well. Gets rid of the dust on the model and keeps it down, I think, as well. And then again, through the 0.35 Apex, 18 psi. And we're going to put several light coats down. I have no tape on now. My own wear standing behind. As you can see, the body shell's moving round. I took it off to sand it back a little bit. But it'll be fine. It's securely on there fine for primer. But as I say, we're just going to go around. It's not primer, so it's paint. But we're going to go around, put a few coats down, probably about 3 coats. Because we've already got a white base coat down with the primer, the white covers really quick, so we don't need to go overboard with it. But as you see, we're going alternating up and down, side to side, getting all those angles, on and off the air with the airbrush, off the model, before we come back on, and that will reduce any splatters. And like I say, just go around and get a nice, clean, white surface. I've not built many white cars recently. I went for a spate of doing loads of motorsport cars, and all I ever sent to spray was white. And it's nice to spray. It's a nice colour to spray. It's just not the most aesthetically pleasing model to look at because you can't see the depth of shine. So we've got a bit of dust in the model. So before we commit to masking, I've got our sponge again, 240 sponge, and I've wetted it. I'm just going to go around and just remove some of the high spots and the flaws in the paintwork. And it's a case of go around, give it a sand, dry it off, have a look. If it needs a bit more, repeat. If it doesn't, leave it well alone and move on to the next step, which is masking. We need to mask up and spray all the yellow. So using the Regi Models decal layout, we can look at where it needs masking off. And then we're going to use Tamiya 1, 2, and 3mm masking tape, and the 6, 10, and 18mm as well. So I'm going to very quickly run through this, because like I said, we've got a lot to get through today, and I had 9.5 hours of footage to make this video. So a lot of it hit the cutting room floor. I think it was literally 4 hours of decaling alone on this. But we're going to follow the call out on the instructions to where the yellow goes. It's pretty much got quite a definitive edge as such around the edge of the wide arch where they stick out. So it's a case of line it up, get it down, and follow that line all the way around. Keeping it equal, straight where it needs to be straight, curved where it needs to be curved. But just keep referring to instructions, some online pictures I grabbed as well of the real car, and just make sure you're getting it all masked off correctly. So we're going to do a yellow stripe at the top and the bottom, and around the front bumper, and around the rear as well. So quite a bit to mask. This took me quite some time to do, but we kind of skipped through here, just showing the one side how I did it. So it's just done in 3 parts, up to the panel lines. Put the masking tape in the panel line with your fingernail, and then do the next piece in between, like so. So I did the wheel arches so we could follow the definitive line around, and then join them together right in the middle, like so. Ensure we've got a nice straight edge, and we're all good to go. There we go. Make sure it's all burnished down. Make sure you de-tack your tape as well to lose any excess stickiness. If you get any hairs underneath, you can peel it back and wipe them off, like so. Then when you're happy, pop it back on, like so. There we go. If you keep the tape taut once getting one end on, it'll keep you a nice straight edge, like so. There we go. Once we've got those in, the actual edge, we can then infill with some of the 3mm tape, and then we'll come in with some 6mm, and then our cling film. Saran wrap, whatever you want to call it, later on to infill the rest of the model. Rather than wasting tons of tape, we'll use the clear saran wrap cling film to infill the rest. So it's very fiddly, it's very, very time consuming, but like I say, a lot of hours in this, at least, I'm going to guess, because I didn't film every second of it. So it's probably about 11 hours of modelling just to get to this stage we're going to get to today, which is clear coated. So a lot of work on this one. I've finished models in 16 hours before now, in total. So we've still got a lot of work to do ahead of us. So this has taken quite a while. And there we go. There's one side masked off. The bottom and the top parts will be painted yellow. So just checking we're all lined up properly. And then once we're all masked, as you can see, we've got our cling film, saran wrap, wherever you want to call it, plastic film. And we pull a piece off, fold it in half. Spread it out, fold it in half like so. Smooth it out nice and straight, and then we grab some tape. So the Tamiya 10mm. Get it all around the bottom, and then we can use this to infill all around the large areas, saving a lot of masking tape and a lot of time as well. It really is a time saver. So there you go, as you can see, we just put this up to the tape we already put on. Now the only thing I will say about the cling film is, if you put this on any burr decals, i.e. decals that have not been cleared over, I believe it's got a chance of pulling them off. It's never happened to me because I've never done it before, but I know people have done it. And also be aware if you're using TS sprays that they are fully dry, because this can leave an imprint in the paint as well. So as you know, I bought a dehydrator to try, and I was popping this in the dehydrator after the primer coat and after the paint coat, and it was definitely speeding up the drying times, so it was proving beneficial. I managed to get this primed, painted, masked, and this yellow virtually in one day, which I would normally do over a couple of days, so it did speed things up a little bit. So what we've got here, we've got some Tamiya TS16 yellow. This is what Regi Model calls out for the colour. I have another manufacturers. I think it's Zero Paint yellow for this, which is a little bit lighter. So you choose and take your chance with whichever colour you want. When I first sprayed it, I thought it looked way too dark. Once I got the decals on a little bit, it looked okay. So make your choice. But for me, these are the TS sprays, which is super easy. It really does add a benefit to the paint. So this is TS 16. Again, decanted out the can, off gas, 20% Tamiya lacquer retarder, 0.35 apex, 18 psi, and 3 light coats. So we don't want to go mad with the coats. You certainly don't want heavy coats because you get bleeding through the tape, and we don't want a huge step to deal with, which we will have to anyway. But we want to minimize the height of that step. But again, make sure you get all the angles, the wheel arches, the sills, everywhere, and make sure you mask off everywhere well, including any vents or holes inside the body, because it can send the yellow paint through them. So be careful of that as well. And there we go. It's been drying for half an hour, and we can literally unmask it. In fact, it hasn't. Tell a lie. It's straight away. I like to get the mask and tape off before the paint dries, because we are going to end up with a line. And with the speed, this is dried in the ambient temperature, because it's very warm in the UK at the minute, for us anyway. Like I say, it's around 25-30 degrees, which is warm for us in the UK. The paint's drying a lot quicker than it normally does, at around 15-ish degrees centigrade. So there we go, all masked up. Paint looks good. We've got no bleed through anywhere, which is absolutely fantastic. All the demarcation lines look good. And what we can do now, after this is dried, this is next morning now, so it's fully cured, is we can come in with some 1200 wet and dry, wet it, and we're just going to go around over where the demarcation was and just lightly sand it till that step goes. So you can feel it with your nail. We want this to go because we have decal stuff over this, and you'll see the step through the decal, and it looks awful. So we need to flatten this without going too crazy and losing paint. So it is a fine line to do. They're done. So decals, we've got my heated coffee warmer tray top right with heated water. We've got some microset, and we've got the ultimate decal solutions there as well. We've got some cotton buds. We've got my water pen brush, a cocktail stick, and my Tamiya decal tweezers and Tamiya knife as well. And what we're going to do first is all these yellow stripes with the gold silver trim on them has to go on where we do the yellow to white demarcation. So in the warm water is super beneficial for decaling, in my opinion. Almost an essential. It gets the decal off the backing paper so much quicker, and the decals always seem a little bit more supple to me. So as you can see, hold it with the tweezers, test it, try it, leave it on the paper for a minute. And then while we're waiting, we'll grab some microset. Make sure we clean the brush off of anything else that's on there. Now I'm using the microset to get it in place. We're not using this to set it at all. So we just put a thin coat on there. Then we grab our decal with our tweezers, make sure it moves, which it does. Leave it on the backing paper, line it up where we want it. And then pop it in place almost perfectly. Look at that, not bad at all. So I might need a little bit of tweaking here and there. So I just need moving a few mils to make sure you get the wraparound point right. And you want it to sit just in the door shut. Like so. So I'm going to show you one decal going down, and then we're going to skip through. Now I do plan to make a video on the Ultimate Decal Solutions, and this will be the video used. So you will see a bit more of this in depth in a future video. But just line it up, keep referring to your instructions or your decal sheet. Make sure it's all lined up, make sure you got the decal oriented the correct way. The silver strip is always into the yellow, so on the top pieces it's at the top, and on the bottom pieces at the bottom. Use our same brush to lay down the decal, get any moisture out from behind it, and then move on to the next one. And there we go. Make sure they're all fully burnished down nice and gently. Then we hit it with some decal solution. So I started with normal UMP decal solution, but found I had to move on to the strong, and that's where I went from then on. Started using the strong, and it was working absolutely fantastic. So I like to get all the tricky decals out of the way first. So with those stripes out of the way, which took me a good 3 hours. I think it was Sunday's live stream. It took me nearly the entire live stream, or it might have been Monday. to do. We can move on to some of the larger ones. So we get the Audi stripes in place. Again, get them set down, all the moisture removed, then hit it with some UMP strong solution. As you can see, it's already starting to set nicely in place. And then we need to cut it into that little vent at the top. So what we do, we go into the corner, and we go diagonally to the middle of the vent, and then we do it at the top as well. Like so. And then what we can do, we'll put a little bit more decal solution on it, let it soften, and then we can push it round and bend it round underneath, and it shouldn't split because the decal is softened enough by the solutions. There we go. And then we skip forward to get the decals down. Now, I did make a mistake on this. I put the wrong number plate on the front, but I did rectify it later by putting the correct one over the top. And if you look close, you can see where I've done it, but if I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't spot it. But overall, the decals went down great. That was a mistake by me. They're quite tricky to get in place, some of them. They do need a bit of work. Like I say, I always get the trickiest decals out of the way first of all, and these ones just need lining up across the top of the rear window, the side of the C-pillar, and the bottom over that wheel arch to make sure everything is lined up correctly. Once it is, again, hit it with a normal and strong, get it set in place, leave it to soak for a bit, and then we can come in and use the brush to fully burnish down the decal into all those recesses, the vent, and everywhere required. Really enjoy decal. One of my favourite aspects of modelling. Can be frustrating at times. But as you can see on a fully completed model, which took another 4 hours, so I reckon we got about 6-7 hours of decal in this. There was a lot of footage on this I had to sift through today. So panel line wash. I've got some Tamiya grey panel liner, which I'm adding a few drops of black to get a nice dark grey colour. I'm just going to add this to all the panel lines, any gaps, any recesses, and it'll just accentuate them and add a little bit of depth to the model. It just adds a little bit of visual interest. Nice and easy to do. The enamel's dry pretty quick. Not too bad at all. As you can see, I've fixed my faux pas on the bonnet with the correct number plate. So I basically put the number plate over the top because there was nothing else I could do. And unless you look really close, you can't really see the problem at all. We all make mistakes. It's just one of those things. There we go, into the vent at the back. And then leave that to dry. Again, in the heat, it dries pretty quick. It's probably about 40 minutes later. We've got a cotton bud moistened with a little bit of Santador from Winsor & Newton, which is odorless mineral spirit. And we're just going to go around and remove any excess wash as shown. So you might find it smudges. If it does, let that bit dry and then come back in and wipe it off later. It usually means that the wash isn't quite dry on the panel line yet, and that can depend how much you put in there. So if it does that, just leave it alone for a little bit longer and come back to it in a bit. And there we go, fully decaled and washed. It's looking good. It's not perfect, but it's one of those. It's the best job I could do, and I'm happy with it. So, the following day. Again, lovely heat here at the minute, so the decals are dried super quick. We've got some Gravity 2K clear, and we're going to mix it with the 6mm clear, 2mm hardener, 2mm thinner. Now, I did run out at the end, had to mix a little bit more, so I mixed another 3mm of clear, 1mm thinner, 1mm hardener. Again, didn't use it all, but I literally just could have done with a little bit more. So there's the 6mm of clear, 2mm of hardener, using separate pipettes for all this. We then give it a good stir up to get the chemical reaction in process. And then once you're done with that, throw that pipette away. Get a nice fresh one, and into our thinner, 2mm of thinner, like so. And again, give it a real good mix. It will go cloudy when the thinner goes in, so give it a stir till it goes nice and clear again. Like so. Then I like to strain it. Now I'm assured by Antonio Gravity that the paint is all strained, but I still do it as a matter of course. And it takes a second, and I've already got the filters, so it's not the end of the world. Anti-static brush again to try and minimise the amount of dust. My room was hoovered the day before. We've got fresh paper in the booth. We've got a fresh filter. I'm fully gloved up, my arms covered, I've got my full face respirator on. We've watered down the tissue paper in an effort to reduce the amount of dust. And we're going to start by putting a tack coat down. So we've got a 0.35 apex, we're 24 psi this time. I'm just going to put a fairly thinnish tack coat down. This will tack up after 10 minutes and allow us to put a wet coat down, minimizing the risk of any runs. So it's a simple process, repeated many, many times, but everyone goes differently. And this one's a bit of an adventure today because we're test piloting our dehydrator, which I have already tried on a spare body, but it was not a decal body, and I'm interested to see how it will perform today. So we're going to 2K this, let it flash off for 20 minutes, and then pop it in there. So like I said, we're just going around. We're not trying to get a wet coat down, we're just putting a thin tack coat down, getting even coverage all over the body, and then that can sit aside for 10 minutes. We'll do the spoiler at the same time, but you need to make sure you get everywhere with this. All the sills, recesses, arches, underneath, anywhere and everywhere you want gloss. Like I say, the tack coat will dry super tacky, and when we put our wet coat down, it should really minimize the chance of getting a run. So there we go. That's that. So I can then sit back under the box for a bit, out the way, and we'll do the spoiler as well. You see I put the box over every time, and the same on the spoiler. Light tack coat all over all the angles, all the recesses, and just having a check and make sure we've got even coverage. 10 minutes later, we're back for coat number 2. This one's going to be a little bit heavier this time. We're going to go for a wet coat without worrying if there's a bit of orange peel left. So we go a little bit slower, a little bit more pull back on the trigger this time for a little bit more paint, or clear rather. And again, making sure we get nice even coverage. Now you've got to be careful on a white body car. It's very, very easy to get runs because you can't see the clear as easily. So just take your time. Don't hose it on as much as you think you need to. If you have to come back again and do another slight coat, it's not the end of the world. It's just a bit more time, that's all. So just really take your time doing it. So as you can see, we're getting down a nice semi-wet coat now. Like I say, we're going for a wet coat, but we're not worrying about getting it all fully covered this time. This can sit for another 10 minutes, self-level, flash off. Then we can come back and put our final wet coat down in a minute. So just pay attention. This is where the dust becomes a problem, because the longer you've got it out of that box, the more chance you've got a dust land on it. It wasn't too bad today. We didn't get a huge amount of dust. I'm just having a look around, make sure we're all evenly covered. Like so. Use the light to your advantage, because it shows any flaws in a clear coat or paint job. Once we're happy, we can pop it back under the box and give our spoiler another go over as well. And again, just making sure we get a nice even coat. You don't need to go mad. If we get smaller parts, are very easy to overspray. And then our third and final coat. We need to make sure this is our full wet coat now. So like I said, I had to mix a little bit more at the end. So I've thinned this ever so slightly, a little bit more. Rather than putting 1 mil of thinner, I put 1.5. So it's 3 mil of clear, 1 mil of hard, and that 1.5 mil of thinner. Just to give us ever such a slightly thinner coat. Now, I'm playing with this in a minute. I'm still thinking it's better to do the way Gravity recommends. And I think we'll stick with that in future. But we're just trying it. It's not the end of the world because we can polish everything up. Just be careful of any runs. You don't want to get runs if you can help it. And again, use the light to make sure you get nice even coats all around. White paint's looking absolutely super. Nice brilliant white. Our yellow looks really good. The decals look fantastic as well. I really do rate Reggie decals. They do look really good, and I've never had a problem putting them down either. They're very thin. You need to take your time, but I think that makes them beneficial. There we go, just having a quick look. Think there's anywhere I need any more. Again, using that light, angling it, having a look. So what I like to do now is after we've got this stage done, is to pop it back in the box for 5 minutes and then come back, have a look and see how it's self-level. Because each time this is left, it will self-level. That's how 2K works. So it's looking good to me. We've got a nice even coat all over. There we go. Again, just quickly pop it under our plastic cover for 5 minutes whilst we tidy up a little bit. We're going to spray the spoiler the same again as well. Again, take your time on the smaller parts. It's very easy to overspray and they need a lot less paint than you actually think. Once we're happy, that can go in there as well. And then after 5 minutes, take it back out for final inspection. Looking for orange peel more than anything. Anything we can add a bit more clear to fix is what we're looking for here. It's all looking good. Not too bad at all. We've got a very slight run on the rear arch on the yellow at the back, but it's only ever so slight. So we'll let that dry and we'll sand and polish that off later. So back in the case for 20 minutes, or we'll let this flash off, and then we're going to pop in my house. So excuse the wobbly phone cam footage. We're in my kitchen. Hannah is my camera person here. So out of this we come. There's my dehydrator. So we pop it in. As you can see, it's a pretty decent one. It's a good size. We pop that inside and cover it back up. And then if we go to the top, we've got it on 45 degrees C. And we pop the fan on. And there we go. There it is. Inside. So we're going to leave that in there for 3 hours. And see what we've got when we're done. So like I said, this is an experiment. So this is the first time using a decal car, and how's it turned out? Not the best. It's okay. It's salvageable to a degree. The worst case is it's cracked some of the decals. So it's cracked the red on the back a little bit. It's not the end of the world. It's one of those. It's cracked the 3 a little bit on the side a touch, and the same on the other side as well. So it's had a slightly detrimental effect on some of the decals and on the back there on the Audi colours right by that rear quarter as well. So that's a real shame. But what it's done more than anything is I don't think the heat has allowed the 2K to self-level, because if you look, it's not as clear as usual. That would normally be like a mirror with one of my 2K jobs, and you can see the decals ever so slightly through the 2K. Which again would be covered by the 2K usually. So I think the speed in a process dries the 2K and doesn't let it self-level as much. Same on the side as well. We can polish all that up, that's not an issue. And the same on the front. So this to me has not been a success. So we could try all different ways of different times and temperatures, but I don't want to be risking my models on this. So we tried it. It's worked. The finish does dry a lot quicker. This is touch dry now. But the finish isn't worth the risk of ruining decals and the extra work it's going to require to polish it. So we're going to ditch the dehumidifier and go back to our usual way of 2K. Right, so there we go. We'll chalk this up as a win. We will, even though it's kind of had a detrimental effect on it by cracking the decals and the 2K is not as good. It's a lesson learned. We've tried it. And the dehydrator does have its pluses and negatives. It speeds up the drying process exponentially. Phenomenal how fast it dries. At 4 hours, that thing's ready to go. You can polish that and pop it on. Finished. No bother at all. I don't need that kind of speed. I was after the hardness of it. And we did this one. And that finish is bulletproof. Absolutely rock solid. But I've got a lot of rare kits and expensive kits. And I'm not taking the risk on destroying them, because 2K can always be a little bit of a fickle thing anyway. Some you'll get absolutely perfect, others you'll get dust in, runs in, bit of orange peel. It just swings around about. So we're adding another variable here. I don't want to have ruined decals. The clear's not as good as it would have been if just let it dry and ambient temperature. And I don't want to destroy expensive kits. So yes, for me, no, I think we'll go back to the way we've been doing it and stick with what's worked well over the last 3 years. It's an experiment, and again, I would like to see what it did to Molotov and other clears, but it's just not worth it at all. It's an expensive piece of equipment. The one I bought was anyway, and I think it's just one of those luxuries I don't need. If you've got one and it works, great, fantastic. For me, I'm going to go back to the way I did it. But we tried it. It was a win, it was a loss, but at least we tried it and we can see where we are, and now we can move forward with everything else. There we are. If you use the dehydrator and you're getting good luck with it, stick with it by all means. There's all sorts of different things I could try, different temperatures, different lengths of time, different mixtures of 2K, but you're just changing the variables all the time, and it's going to come to it. We're doing a Sierra Cosworth that's worth crazy money, £100, and end up absolutely destroying the finish on it. And just with the cracking on the decals of this, that's enough for me to think, no, this isn't worth it. I don't get cracking with decals on any other 2K jobs, just in the dehydrator. So we'll draw a line of that one, move on, and go back to the old ways. So there we are. Other than that, though, the models turned out great. Reggie decals, sweet as a nut. Absolutely love the decals. My favourite scheme of all time on this. Love it. The demarcation between the white and the yellow, perfect, absolutely spot on. And the overall finish and fit of the kit, lovely kit, very little cleanup required, and goes together really well. So there we are. We'll be back with part 2 of this. I'm not 100% sure when, because I'm going to start my Ferrari Testarossa Spider, my 16 scale Fujimi build, which myself and Luke are building as a buddy build together. I'm building the Spider, he's building the standard Testarossa, Supercar, GT, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what they are. Is it Supercar? Guess it is. So he's building that. We're going to do it as part of ISM's large scale build with Alan and Simon. And if you want to join in, feel free to do it. Simon's building his GT40 from Trumpeter, and Alan's doing his Porsche 910, I believe, as well. So that's probably the next video up. I've got other videos planned. Some of the tiered patrons get to choose my next product review. So there's a poll up for that over on Patreon for them to pick that one. And I've got other plans of videos to do. So stay tuned, stick around. I've got some reviews to do. I'm going to review the M1A2 Tusk Abrams that Lucardo very kindly gave me as well, because a few of you asked for that. So that's coming up as well. If you'd like to support the future videos, my Patreon me link is in the description down below, as well as a PayPal me link if you don't wish to do a monthly Patreon subscription. For everyone that's done it so far, thank you very much. Anything and everything received is greatly appreciated, because I say it every time, without it I couldn't continue doing these videos. So thank you everybody, it's been very humbling, and I'm still finding it difficult to talk about Patreon now. I just find it like a dirty word, but things had to be done. Thank you all for your support, it is greatly appreciated. Getting all teary-eyed. But yeah, thank you all, and like I say, the links are there should you wish to support the channel. There are perks with each tier, so if you go through them all, they all go up in value, but you get more and more for the higher rates that you go for. There we are. Make sure you sub to the channel, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment as well. Do appreciate all the comments left, and do read them all. Reply to all the questions that I can, and heart everything else. So do appreciate all the feedback I get, and it does drive me forward for the build. So please feel free to leave a comment. As usual, check out Intessa Skull Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, where you can get a lot of the products I use in my videos. My Paul ISM Facebook page, where all my personal modelling work is shared. The Live the Bench page, the Off Air Hangout group, and the GB page for ISM as well. All these are linked in the description down below, as well as a big long list of all the products I use in my videos. So if you've seen something in the video, you'll probably find it in there. There we are. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.